Welcome back to the Rooted Home Life podcast. On today's episode, we are talking all about nourishing ourselves as mothers so that we can cultivate home and chase adventure with our children effectively and not be burnt out. Today's guest, I am so excited to introduce you to. If you do not know her, Evgeniia of At Nourished Motherhood has become a friend of mine over on Instagram and has helped me start to get back into the habit of moving my body and building healthy habits, which is something that as I've gotten busier has kind of fallen to the wayside. And it is really important for us as moms to nourish ourselves, our bodies, our minds, our spirits, all of the things. And I am so excited for you to get to meet Evgeniia today and hear from her about nourishing ourselves as mothers. Hi, Evgeniia. Thank you so much for agreeing to meet with me today. I'm so excited to get to talk to you and to introduce you to my community who may not know you.
Hi, Christine. I'm very excited to be here too.
So for people that don't know you, can you just introduce yourself and share a little bit about who you are, yourself, your family, and maybe even a little bit about your homeschooling experience?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Evgeniia or Evgenia, or you can call me any other names, which is approximately the same because it's okay. I'm originally from Russia and I moved to Canada about 9.5 years ago right now. Yes, 9.5. And I moved here to study fitness and health promotion. I guess I moved here for better life, I would say, probably. And I met my husband here. We have a son right now. For now, it's one child, but we hope for more kids. Not 5, but when I talk to my husband about this, he always says, he thinks that I'm a little bit too much when I say that I want to have 3 kids, so 2 more. And he says that he's just too old for this. But who knows? Maybe it's never too late, especially for men. And we homeschool together with my husband. He's participating less than me, but still participating because we are homeschooling our child on 3 languages. And obviously our child is still 5. It's not like we are trying to throw a lot of things at him, but we are trying to make sure that we speak to him as much as possible. I speak Russian, he speaks Polish, and we speak English together with me and my husband. So we make sure that we read aloud a lot and do all other subjects, age-appropriate subjects, using different languages. And it's actually fascinating how a child's brain works when they are introduced to languages from very beginning. It's just like, okay, and now we switch, and now we switch. And he just goes. For him, it's so natural. For me, it's fascinating because I didn't know a couple of languages from very beginning. So for me, I have to still loading, what the word I want to use. For him, it's just natural. We live in Canada. We live close to Toronto area. And my husband is a photographer and I am an online coach. For homeschooling moms, I teach them about health, well-being, how to beat burnout, and how to not reach burnout. That's the most important, probably, how to prevent it, and how to be healthy and move a lot so they can be there for their kids. I want to emphasize this particular part because I purely believe that it's not about us, it's about our families, and I want to serve my family well. And that is why I wake up every day and do different routines, exercise, move my body, pray, read, and do all other things that bring nourishment to my mental, physical, and spiritual health, so I can show up for my son as the best mom as I can be in the moment, right? And I hope that I will develop together with my son in my motherhood and maybe be even better eventually, but we can only do so much at the moment. And that's why I created this business, so I can encourage moms to do something step by step and do something today, not waiting until the perfect time will come, because as we know, the perfect time will never come, especially because we homeschool, and homeschooling, of course, is a blessing but it could be hard in some seasons, right? We all know this. It's kids are growing up and the seasons are changing, and it's really hard to change with the kids sometimes because they change quickly. And we as adults, we like to have certain routines in place, and then we're like, okay, now we have to reorganize our whole life again, and that's hard
Yeah.
because we don't want to do this all the time, but we have to. So my main goal on my social media or in my business is to encourage moms to do something for their health and well-being so they can show up and be better wives and moms for their families.
I love that so much. And specifically because when we found each other on Instagram, what I was really drawn to and excited about is that you were focused on health and wellness, but not just like in general.
Yes,
Although I'm sure you believe in health and wellness
of
in
course.
general, I loved how your focus was on moms and then even more specifically homeschool moms, because I feel like if it wasn't just for moms, someone like me could look at it and say, well, yeah, that's great, but I'm a mom. I have 5 kids. Like, I don't
Yes,
have time for that, right?
yes,
Or even a step further, like, yeah, that's great if I was home and my kids were in school all day,
yes,
and I would have time for that. So, like, as a homeschooling mom, I'm like, okay, she is a mom. She is a homeschooling mom. I will listen to her when she tells me what to do because I don't have the excuse of like, yes, she can do that because,
hmm
right? And so I just love how you share not only the encouragement, but like the practical tips.
yes,
Like here's the practical things you can do to nourish yourself and build healthy habits.
yes. And I,
So can you share just a little bit of like how you got here? I know you mentioned that you studied health and wellness, but like how did you get to that point? Like what got you interested in it? Could you share just like a little bit of that part of your journey, like
yes,
your health and
absolutely.
wellness
Yes.
journey?
Um, well, I was a competitive gymnast, acrobatic gymnast I mean, I started when I was 4. Of course, I was not competing at 4. So I was in sport, but right now I can say that very often sport can be toxic. And if you're doing high level sport, it's definitely toxic in a way because how you have to perform. For example, I do struggle with perfectionism in my life because when you're an athlete, like you have to be perfect in order to achieve certain things or get certain marks because the judges evaluating you and they give you certain points depending on your mistakes or if you did everything well. So perfectionism in sport it's a must. Perfectionism in life and especially in motherhood or homeschool is not must at all, and ideally we should not focus on this because it's really hard to live the life like this. So I've struggled with perfectionism, of course, because of the sport. However, I had many different other great things because of the sport, right? Like mental strength. I'm not afraid of moving to another country by myself with 2 dogs and a cat and starting a new life at 30, because some people at 30 already have life with kids and families, and I didn't have this, so I wanted to move. And just physical strength, right? It's also important to remember that sports give us health, especially if we don't go too high, because that's another it's another way of making it too hard on your body. Like when you are a competitive athlete, sometimes if you're high level competitive athlete or like Olympic level competitive athlete, you have to go through certain things, and sometimes they're not the best for the health. But luckily for me, it wasn't the case. So I went actually in Russia to study journalism because my dad was against me becoming a coach, which is very funny because eventually that's my life right now, right?
Right.
And I wanted to be a coach for kids. So eventually, after journalism, I finished it for 5 years. I studied this, and I went to another university to study sports and all the things related to coaching. And I finished it, and I guess it wasn't enough for me to have 2 educations. So I decided, why don't I go to Canada and get another education?
Wow.
I mean, I'm just joking, but in general, those ones, like when I went to journalism, it taught me a lot of things like mental resilience and never giving up mentally, not just physically. And then, of course, sport taught me other lessons. And then moving here taught me something else. And then eventually, when I went to college, I met new people. I knew that I actually want to work in fitness. I did really fall in love with fitness, and I worked as a gymnastics coach here, and then I worked as a fitness group exercise instructor and personal trainer. And then I had my son, and everything has changed since then, because you I mean, you know how it is when you have your first child. Everything changes, all your belief system is changing,
Yeah.
especially if you have this ability to listen to your own intuition. So many things are opening up for you as a mom because it's a different level of awareness and connection to somebody else in life,
Right.
right? Like your baby. But then physically, I didn't know anything about any recovery, postpartum, or anything really. And for the first year, to be honest with you, didn't do anything except just giving everything to my child, which was great. However, I needed some recovery, postpartum. I needed some strength back, and I also needed work because pandemic happened right when my son got one. And
Wow.
in Canada, we have 1 year postpartum period when we don't have to work, or
That's amazing, actually.
yes, it is. I mean, not everyone is eligible to this, but depending on your previous work status, you can have either 1 year or up to 18 months, which is
Wow.
great. In Russia, it's actually 3 years, which is
But
even
6
better.
weeks in the US.
Yes, I know, and sometimes 8 if you want to have a C-section, right? I know some people choose to have C-section because it gives them 2 more weeks.
That's
With
awful.
their, yes, it's very hard. But coming back, I've realized that I have all the expertise and I'm a mom myself, so I can help people. And of course, I had to take more certifications for postpartum and prenatal certification and other things. And actually, when I came to Canada and I found my passion, I finally realized that I love to study. I love to learn. And that was probably my first time ever when I did it purposely and I really wanted it.
Wow.
Like in Russia, my love to learning was killed partially, probably 99% because 1% was there. So, you know, it brought it back. The reason why I found the reason why I wanted to study is because I wanted to learn more, right? And when I did all of these things, I learned more. I started to continuously educate myself, even through reading and different peer-reviewed articles and all the things. I realized that I want to create something so comprehensive that is covering not just fitness or not just this and not just this, but just in general, it covers life. But this is very short story. Like in general, it took me about 3 years to realize,
Right.
right? And slowly I was changing my program. I started working with just regular moms, and it was great, but also it was hard for me because at that point I already knew that I want to homeschool. And before I should say this, since I'm from Russia, there is no homeschooling in Russia, or at least it's like I never knew that there is homeschooling when I lived there.
Wow.
Now, right now, I know one person in Russia who homeschools. And
Wow.
I actually reached out to her. I'm like, is this even legal? Because I thought it's illegal. Like
Right.
to have a child at home in Russia is illegal. You can't.
Wow.
I mean, I know some people did, but it's just you can't. So I thought about homeschooling that it's the same. So I didn't know. And when I found out about homeschooling first, I'm like, who are those people? Is everything okay with them? And also, when I was pregnant, I was always joking that I'm just gonna give birth and go back to work, and whoever babysits this child, that's okay. And then I got my child first time in my arms, and everything changed. I was like, no one touches him, and don't come close to me, and I don't need any help. I can do everything myself. Just don't take my baby away from me for even 1 second. So
Yeah,
it's
the mama bear instinct kicks
right.
in pretty quick,
So
right?
it changed completely. And then fast forward to what I've saying, that I was working with regular moms, but I already knew that I want to homeschool, or at least start to homeschool, or definitely don't want to have any daycare experience, because we actually did have it for very short time, and it was very part-time, but we didn't have very good experience. And my son was 18 months at that time, and I think it's way too early. And it created some stuff which we had to work on later, and that's okay now. But I realized that I don't have connections with just regular moms, not because they're bad or good or anything. We look at motherhood in a different ways. And today, actually, someone reached out to me and she asked me, do you only accept homeschool moms to your program? And I said no. But I looked through the person's followers, the mom's followers, and I saw that she's following Wild and Free and all the people, Ginny Urich from 1000 Hours
Yeah.
Outside. So I told her this, no, it's not just for homeschooling, but we have to look at motherhood the same way. And that is the most important. I understand not everyone can homeschool. Not everyone wants to homeschool. But in general, we have to prioritize connection with our kids. And this is the touching point in my work. If a mom looks at life the same way as I look, I can help her, because she then can trust me. Because no one can change their lifestyle when there is no trust. And a regular mom who believes that school is the best option, and who thinks that who jokes about, oh, finally it's September, now I can stay by myself and have my time.
Yeah.
I can't have connection with this kind of people, not because they're bad or good. It's just because not my it's not how I think about this, right?
Right. It's different.
So then they cannot change if they don't trust me.
Yeah.
The same as very hard to learn anything when people don't trust, or when kids don't trust to the teacher or whoever is teaching, right? I always hope that we have trust with our kids and we can teach them. But if it's another educator, if there is no trust, it's hard to learn and hard to focus and hard to be in rest and digest mode for nervous system for the child and then learn. So I switched to homeschool moms, and I haven't been happier in my life, because we are a different kind, right? And as homeschool mom myself, who is going through a very interesting season right now, because my son is 5 and this is our second or third year, kind of 2.5 years, because we didn't really start on time, and we didn't really start with he's obviously young and there is no formal learning or a lot of formal learning, but the season is hard because he speaks so much that sometimes I want to say, can you please stop? Because I need some quiet 5 minutes. Can I just have 5? But I also think, okay, but I don't want to tell my child to stop talking, because that's what I actually want him to do.
Right.
I want him to never stop talking, because that's how he is, and I don't want to suppress his personality.
Right.
So that's how I started, and that's where we are, and it's going great. I'm very happy to help lots of homeschooling moms. I gain experience from my work myself, because I work with moms who have 6 kids, 7 kids, 3 kids, 2 kids, who are absolutely different. There is no really the same family who I work with, and they all struggle. And by talking to them about their struggles, because my program is a lot about mindset shift. I do help them to look not just at health and fitness differently, but eventually they look at their life differently, and even at homeschooling probably. But how great it is for me, I repeat consistently things that I also need to hear myself. And because I do this, it does help me. So in helping moms to heal, I help myself to heal. We all need some kind of healing, right? There are no perfect people, and we all have our own things to work on, regardless how our childhood was. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not great, but we all have a little bit of trauma, I believe.
Right.
Because kids are so self-centered, sometimes a great family and everything, but you can say one word and the child will in his head twist it absolutely different, and then think about this the way you never meant.
Right. I love so much of what you said, because I'm like, the first thing that you said about, or one of the first things you said about being a gymnast and then a gymnastics coach. I don't know if we've ever talked about the fact that like my one daughter is intensely like she loves gymnastics, and we've actually tried to hold her back. It sounds bad to say that, but we've tried to hold her back a little bit because of the fact that she is so good, and she's always getting interest to like do more, be more competitive, all of those things. And the mama bear instinct in me is like, I don't want her in a high stress, high pressure, unhealthy situation. So we've tried to be like very careful. And we just recently, after 2 years, have allowed her to like take a step into competitive gymnastics. And we're like, we haven't even competed yet. We're just training. And so we're like trying it out, but there's like that part of me that I'm like, the second that I see that this is not healthy and I don't like it, we're done. And she knows that. I grew up a dancer, and so I know it's different, but a lot of similarities with
100%.
all of that stuff that can be so negative. Now, I feel like like you said, I learned so many good things from it, like the discipline. And I feel like my body still has foundations in it, even though I feel like I am wildly out of shape. There are still foundations there that I know were because I danced during my developmental years, like the muscle development and things like that. So that was interesting that you shared that. But then to connect that with what I feel like is so unique about you, other than all of those life experiences, is kind of like where your focuses intersect. So like you can be really big on health and fitness, like I mentioned before, but not maybe specifically geared towards moms, maybe not specifically geared towards homeschooling moms, but then even a step further where your like passion for it and reasoning for it is to have connection with your children. And so I think that's really unique and interesting, because it's not all about like me time and I'm going to get my body looking good and strong. And like those things can be okay and balanced. But I love how you have like this deeper purpose behind it, where it's like, no, to be the best mom that I can be. And I feel like that's really healthy for some of us moms, maybe all of us, maybe most of us, to hear like it's not selfish in balance to prioritize your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, because if you're weak and if you're tired and you're sick, you can't really cultivate that connection that you might have in your heart to truly do, be trying to do. And so in thinking about the foundations of like rooted home life, right? The cultivating home and the chasing adventure, I feel like this health piece was so important to get you on and talk about this, because it's really hard to cultivate those connections if you're not feeling well. And it's nearly impossible to have the energy to go and venture with your kids if you're not healthy, right? And so for someone like me, because I know for me health-wise, even though I do feel like I'm somewhat intentional in some areas, like for example, I try to be really intentional to eat healthy. And I know that can be different things to different people, but where I've definitely lacked is in movement. So I can do it if I'm like, we're going on a hike, we're going
Mm-hmm.
paddleboarding if it's adventure based.
Yes.
The reality is we're not doing that
Yes.
every single
Yes.
day, right? And so for me, the struggle is being intentional to move my body on a normal day.
Mm-hmm.
I have the long to-do list and I'm like, there's
Yes.
way too many things to do. And so can you talk a little bit about like where do you start? Like if you feel like I am so far from like being physically healthy, because I have felt like this so many
Mm-hmm.
times, even before we started like working together, just like I feel almost like too defeated to even start because it would take
Mm-hmm.
too much time and too much energy to even get where I want to be. So like
Yes.
where can moms start? Like,
And let's also remind everyone that our world is has so much information.
mm,
It's it's like imagine this instant pot which is overflowing and the pressure is coming out and it's like the top of our head is ready to boil
mhm,
because of the information, and it's not necessarily good or bad, or it's very controversial, like don't eat eggs, eat eggs, this is gonna kill you, oh this is the best thing you can do,
yes,
right? So it's so many things, but in general where I recommend to start is to sit down with your own self or with your spouse or with your family and identify what's important, because it's all coming from knowing your why. And I know everyone talks about this, but if you want to be with your child active, adventure, going on hikes and everything else, you might be able right now, but what about in 30 years when your child will have children and you will be a grandma? What about having health not just for when your kids are young, but through your kids' lives, when you are able to not sit on the bench, but be an active participant in their life? And sometimes it means literally to stand up, grab the basketball, and play with them. And
yeah,
sometimes it means it's not literally, like sometimes you are there for them mentally when they struggle and going through some hard moments in life.
mhm,
And how you could start is very, very simple. And that is exactly how all my clients start. You can start with things that are free and quick.
mm,
Morning sunlight is free. Do not look into your phone. Get out and look at the sun. Right
mhm,
now we live in a condo, so there is no backyard, and I do struggle with getting out first thing in the morning. However, I created the routine that I get into the balcony. I know that around 7 and after 9 there are two time slots when the sun is facing the balcony, because in between these two times there is a building and the sun is behind. So I just get there and I teach my son that before we do anything, we get to the balcony and we look to the sun together. We hug, I ask him how did he sleep, and that is the connection time when you're doing something to nourish your body and teaching your kids how to take care of themselves as well. You're teaching them healthy habits that will boost their immune system, energy level, hormones when they're older. They don't have to know all of these details. They just need to know that sun is everything. It's great. It's giving us good energy and good mood, and it's fun to be outside when it's warm, even when you're on the balcony.
mm,
Water is free. You drink water every single day anyway, so make sure that you having enough of clean water. And people asking me what's the best filter. The best filter is the go and find the spring water and bring it home. That's the best. So if you could do this, if you can make it your family adventure, for example, bi-weekly, when you drive together, and usually next to spring waters, there is some nature. There are some, forests or rivers or something.
yeah,
So you can combine these two together and do it.
yeah,
For example, if your husband is working, do it on the weekend, so it's the whole family, not just you with the kids going again doing extra thing, but
mhm,
actually enjoying doing this. That's another thing. So yes, those things. You can start on my Instagram. I have morning movement routine, part 1 and part 2, when it takes you about 3 to 5 minutes, and you can always cut it short or do half of it or do just a little bit or even one move. But in general, you have joints to move. We are built certain way because we are meant to do all these movements. Move your head, move your hips. You know, this hip circles from warm up in school from 60s and 70s. It's still the same, even though we are progressing in science a lot. We have still the same joints and they still work the same, and we don't have to create something new. We can just go there. So if you move your body for 3 minutes, it will increase your oxygen in the blood and it will bring it to your brain. So this is the cognitive function, which is going to be improved. You will feel immediately better because of endorphins being released, right? You did this routine, you know how it is. And if you do it with the kids, it's fun because kids always like, oh, mom, another weird thing. she brings another weird thing into our homeschool day. That could be also your break while homeschooling, because we need breaks and our kids need breaks for movement so they can learn better after. That's kind of another whole conversation. But if you live in warmer climate, you can get outside if you have backyard with your bare feet and ground yourself before starting anything. You can have breakfast within 60 minutes of waking up. But if it doesn't work, have it within 90 minutes. Don't think that it doesn't work, it's okay. I'm not going to do anything today. I will just start tomorrow. Even if your breakfast is at 2 p.m., that's fine too. Just do it. Do it in a messy way first, and then eventually it will become your routine. And eventually it will work out if only you don't give up. And once again, small steps bring big results. We should always remember this, and moms should always remember this, because it's hard in a moment when we have about 1 million things on to-do list, and baby is crying, older kids want to go outside, and you feel like everything is pulling you into different directions, into millions of pieces. You can still have a deep breath for 1 minute, or if you cannot time yourself, do 5 deep breaths. 4 in, 4 out, and it's gonna give you 1 minute of deep breath. Do it as much as you can throughout the day to have your nerve system regulated. Because when your nerve system is regulated, most likely your kid's nerve system is regulated too. And if it's not regulated, turn on the music loud and just dance it out. Because it's gonna help you.
I love so much that there are these are simple things that have a large impact. And I feel like these are the things we need as moms. Because if you told me this whole extensive program, I'm like shutting down.
Yes.
Right? I'm like, well, I don't have time for that.
Yes.
But I can go outside and sit and cuddle with my child and look at the sun.
Yes.
Right. And I can try to remember to drink water, and I can move my body. And so that was what was helpful to me, is that you started off with just a couple things. And so while it's still new to me and I'm still working on following these habits, I liked how you told me, try to get off your phone. I think you said 30 to 60 minutes before bed. And I'm like, Evgeniia, I can't. That's when I work. My kids are asleep. And you're like, okay, well, what about 15 minutes? Can you do 15 minutes? And I'm like, yes, I can do that. So I like how it's not a thing, like you said, where if it's not within an hour of waking up that you eat, or it's not exactly perfect, still do it and to still try, because moving towards it is going to make a big difference. So I feel like that's so helpful for moms.
Yes. And so always remember one thing. When you teach your kids to do something, or when they are frustrated and discouraged, you will never tell them, oh, don't do this. That's it. It's not working. You will always encourage them. So why, as moms, we don't do the same thing to us? It's sometimes hard because we have to encourage everyone at home, and then when it comes to us, it's really hard to have this self-talk, right? Because you're not going to go to the mirror and be like, okay, now we're going to have a conversation. Let's be honest, right? But just remember that the compassion you have to your kids is the compassion you need to yourself. And
Yeah.
when they will see how compassionate you are towards yourself, they will also learn this. And that's what we want. We don't want our kids to be hard on themselves, because, life will be hard on themselves anyway, at least at some point, right? And
Yeah.
self-compassion is extremely important skill, because this is going to help us to get through hard seasons and to keep it up and to go and get it. Maybe not in the way we wanted, but still do something. Because if we're going to be negative self-talking and saying, oh, you're such a loser, don't do anything, our kids will not learn anything good, and we're not going to be there for them because we're going to be down all the time.
It's so true. It's so true. Thank you for sharing like the specific practical things like that we can start with right away. Right.
Yes.
But I feel like there are going to be moms who are like, either maybe they already do some of those things and they're like, okay, I've got that. Like, what can I do next? Or they're like, okay, but I want more. I know that I need more. Like for me, I know I joined your Nourished Motherhood community. Do you have any programs? Like if somebody's like, I want to jump in today, while it's on my mind, as soon as I'm done listening to
Yes.
this podcast, like what can I do to start right now?
Yes. So I have a couple of options. First of all, I just had my 3 days pro-metabolic reset for homeschooling moms challenge. And once again, I want to mention that it's not to challenge you, it's to simplify your life. But the name is the challenge, because
Right.
it's something what is not familiar to you or what you're not doing. But my only goal in my work with one-on-one clients or group coaching clients is to simplify your life so you can see the light in the end of the tunnel. I don't want to make it harder. So I just finished this challenge, but you still can sign up and do it by yourself in your own pace. There are recipes, workouts, but in general, we focus on resetting the metabolism prior to the holiday season and prior to the cold season. So we are ready to have fun and joy rather than being miserable and having some flus and stuff like this. And if you want to lose a couple of inches or what I say inflammation or bloat, you can also do this because the recipes are specifically created and workouts are specifically created to not kill you with working out and doing more things, but to make your body feeling more energy and boost your metabolism. And then on September 30th, I am opening doors for my new program. It's a 28 days marathon. And why it's marathon? And it's again a pro-metabolic marathon. Marathon is because life is not a short-term program. I want everyone to understand that, yes, there might be coaching for some time, there might be program for some time, but the main goal is to keep going until we're alive.
Right.
The main goal is to do healthy things and be in the right mindset to make better choices until the end, so we
Right.
can have independent life when we're 80, so we can go on hikes with our grandkids and we are able to not just tie their shoelaces but our own, so we are able to use washroom by ourselves, and we're able to live with our spouses in our houses and not in the retirement living, right? And enjoy the family and everything. So that's why
Yeah.
it's a marathon, because life and health is a marathon. Nothing will change tomorrow. But as long as you're doing, trying, and making small progress, it's gonna work. So this program starts on September 30th, and it's 28 days with the hope that it will help you to jumpstart or kick off these things which you need to do. We're going to be focusing on healthy habits, nutrition, exercise, and having right mindset. And then, of course, my Nourished Motherhood program, one-on-one coaching, it doesn't have to start any date because it's always available. And this is more comprehensive and more detailed and more personalized program when it comes to health. But in general, all my work, you can go onto my website and download free resources with recipes. You can sign up for my newsletter and get all the inspiration there, because I obviously put everything what I have there as well. It's not only about paying clients or not paying clients. I want everyone to feel great and to have all the tips to support their bodies and health and their families through them. So those are the programs which I have, and you can start either with paying programs or you can start with newsletter subscribing.
Yeah, that's amazing. So they can join your newsletter right on your website,
Yes,
and then they can find you over on Instagram.
of course.
And I'm going to put all of those links and everything in the show notes.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for making it accessible to everyone. I like how you said you want everybody to be able to access it. And it's a huge thing for moms to be able to know, no matter what my budget is,
Yes,
I can start, right?
yes,
Like you said, like the sunlight is free, the water is free, and all of those things. And I would also just encourage moms to take it a step further if they can find it in their budget to do so,
yes,
and really invest, like in thinking about how they've budgeted for the school year and thinking about how they budget for extracurriculars for their kids. And that's amazing. And I love that we do that as moms. But remember that investing in our health and finding the room in our budget to invest in that is also investing in them. So I just want to
yes,
encourage moms before we go to really look into those special programs and one-on-one coaching in the community where they can really get like that personalized extra support and
yes.
really take it a step further for their health.
And just one last thing, that our kids need us parents, not just moms, dads as well, healthy and present more than anything in life.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel maybe that deep in the moment, but just sit with this thought and understand that if you're not there, it doesn't matter what kind of curriculum they do. They don't care because they need you.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you for that reminder. Thank you so much for sharing with us today, Evgeniia, all of your experience and your wisdom and your tips. And I look forward to moms connecting with you more.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
I hope you enjoyed listening in on my conversation today with Evgeniia. I hope you were inspired today by everything that she shared, and I will put all of her contact info in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us again for the Rooted Home Life podcast. Make sure that you are following the Rooted Home Life podcast so that you do not miss an episode. And until next time, stay rooted.